This week on a special Juneteenth edition of the show, we dive deep into stories and moments shaping Black culture and cinema today. We reflect on the lasting legacy of Juneteenth, not just a day, but an ongoing movement inspiring powerful storytelling all year round. We'll break down the latest Black Reel Television Award nominations, spotlighting new voices and bold stories making waves. Plus, Charles, a fresh look at the box office performance of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, a film with massive budget and mixed financial results. And we'll also review Pixar's imaginative new release, Elio. We'll have all that and more on the latest edition, Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. I am Tim Gordon, and I am joined by Charles Kirkland Jr., my partner in crime. Charles, what's going on, man?
Eh, eh. Some of this, some of that. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you that you didn't make it super duper weird today with your intro like you have done in the past. So we have a huge show on a super busy day for at least one of us. I'm not going to say which one it is. Maybe it's the guy with his hands on his chest, but we'll discuss why that is the case. But coming up a little later on in the show, since this show will have aired, today is Saturday for recording purposes. So Juneteenth was a couple of days ago. We'll have a list of a reflection watch list if you want to check out some Juneteenth films this weekend, or some TV series. We'll also have reviews coming up a little later on of Elio, a film that, oh yeah, Charles saw it too. So we both had an opportunity to see Elio. And we will discuss a little later on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And there's a specific reason why we're talking about it because, when you start making films with astronomical budgets, man, it's hard to recoup and have those films, make some money. So we'll talk about I call it the curious case of Tom Cruise with this eighth film in the Mission Impossible series. But we will lead off with the nominations for the ninth annual Black Reel Television Awards, which appeared in the trades. 140 nominees this year. I had a conversation with Charles earlier this week, prior to the release of these awards, where I kind of went through and gave him a sneak peek. And Charles, I'm just gonna say this publicly because it was my call, right? As the chief executive officer of this organization. And I wanted to make it competitive. That was my that was my initial thought, right? Along with some other things that occurred like 3 years ago, where I made the decision to take the gender out of our categories and kind of, do a free for all. Now, for context, prior to this, Charles, you remember we had the same amount of categories, like 27 categories, but there were three that we had separated by gender, right? So we had best actor, actress, best supporting actor, actress, and then we had best breakthrough performance, male, best breakthrough performance, female, or male, woman, whatever,
We
right?
also had outstanding guest performance, male and female, didn't we?
Right. Well, we had that too, so on the television side, but I'm thinking specifically when it came to film is where
Oh
this
yeah, 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 yeah.
decision was made, right? So fast forward 3 years later, and initially I knew that it would make the television, I mean, excuse me, it would make the movie or the film categories more competitive because year in, year out, you really don't know what films you're going to get, right? You might have a hot film this year, then you might have a down year, etc. But the one thing that I can say, and that has been very consistent with the television awards, is that, whether it was shows like Atlanta, Insecure, Blackish, all these different shows that have come and gone, right? Television, there's so much content on television. This year, for the first time, I was going through these, going through the nominations because clearly, Charles, you and I were super immersed on the film festival side. We had the film festival a couple of weeks ago. There's wrap up. It's been amping up. So I'm not being funny. I really hadn't paid that much attention. I'd watched a lot of television, but I didn't really think about it as it relates to the list that was being created by Cordell Martin, who runs our nominations and does a lot of this stuff independent of me, right? So I don't see everything, right, until it's time. Man, when he sent me this list of the nominees, Charles, and I read it to you, and we talked about it earlier. I was like, wow. I mean, it made the film categories more competitive. It made the television nominees like almost impossible. And I was reading them to Charles this morning, and I was like, man, I don't envy you because there are so many talented, top-notch, A-list actors working in television. I mean, for instance, Charles, remember there was a part I read you this morning where we had people like Viola Davis, Kerry Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, Don Cheadle, like
Coleman Domingo.
all
Yeah.
these folks are working in the television space as nominees, and it's almost, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it is extremely challenging to try to sift through. And Charles, I believe I went through what about 7 to 10 categories with you, and I only heard you say one time, "Oh, that was easy." I, I would pick, I would pick this one, and I said, "What about the rest?" So, oh my God, man. So I apologize to all our voting academy members of the Black Reel Awards and our Black Reel Television Awards. Good luck. That's all I can tell you. But the nominations are out, Charles. This year, of course.
Let me just
Oh,
say
go ahead.
this. You got in your directed categories, you only have five.
Right.
You only have five. And in your writing categories, you only have five. I think you're going to have to go to five in
Mm,
all your categories
See,
because
I knew you were going to say this, and I have an answer for you. You want the answer?
yeah, yeah, give me
Okay.
the answer.
So the answer is that we started separating them initially, right? So I think it's only fair, and again, like I shared with you earlier when we were going through this, there's some years, and I think this year was a perfect example that there are 10 nominees in a lot of these categories. And it's literally, Charles, remember, a lot of them are split 5 and 5. There are five women that have been nominated, and there are five guys that have been nominated, right? So it almost like, well, somebody go, well, if that's the case, why don't you just separate it? And no, but I'm just saying that the voters have gotten it right that it is that the women and the men are very impactful and they're so talented that I don't think people are setting out to make it 5-5. It just ends up that way, and it happened 5-5 several times this year. We did have one category where it was eight. I think it was either 8-2 or 7-3 women, where it was like women just dominated that category. But I enjoy watching the evolution every year as we as the voting academy members sit with these decisions that need to be made, because technically I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. We both vote for the Critics Choice Association awards every year, and the CCAs are not as competitive as what we're doing. I mean, at least to me they're not. I mean, do you think so?
I mean, no, because they separated out men and women. So I mean,
well, well, it's not even that for me, right? When it comes to CCAs, I clearly have like a Bible that I kind of go through because I'm charting these movies all year. So I just know, and then there's always like the fly in the ointment that happens late in the year, that they'll introduce a movie like in late November or early December that we haven't seen. Like Nosferatu was that movie last year, or A Complete Unknown with Timothy Chalamet. You know, some of these movies that came really, really late in the year that we didn't see in Toronto that sort of messed up my list. But it's also smart because psychologically, people always remember the last thing they saw, right? So, you know, you
Yeah,
saw a great
yeah,
movie in September, and by the time by the time November comes, you're like, it was all right. So Charles, you ever had that situation like a movie's really good, like in Toronto, and then like 3 months later, you're like, yeah, it's okay. You know, the
yeah,
further you get
yeah,
away from it, yeah,
yeah. It happened. It happens a lot. I mean, we did that. That whole this the same movie thing. You know, we saw last year. We saw the same movie like 4 times, and so as we got as they came out, you're like, yeah, it's okay. It
it's
wasn't. It's
okay.
not as good as when I remember when I was there.
And hence, I think it's very interesting. Or you had a situation that I ran into last year where I was in a movie theater and one of my directing idols was there, and I watched this movie and I was on such a high. And then like a month later, I was like, it's okay. I mean, it was good that day. It's okay. So I mean, so yes, so this is what I call inside baseball. But back to this, this year it appears on the television side that there was so much stuff, man. So let's start off by talking about Forever, which led the nominations this year to show you how competitive the television landscape was. 12, a film with 12 nominations led the pack. Now, 12, no disrespect, 12 is a low number, man. We've had television films, I mean, not television, we've had films on the other side that got 20 nominations, 17, 16. 12 is low, but that shows you that there was so much love given across the board that Forever from Netflix, Mara Brock Akil's film, which again, remember I told you earlier, Charles, one of the last movies that came out before it came out in mid-May, right? We closed
Yeah,
the nominations on May 31st. So it was clearly a movie that people saw at the end of the year. It got 12 nominations. Abbott Elementary with 11. Now, Abbott Elementary, I believe last year might have gotten, I can't remember, but I know it got more than 11 last year.
yeah,
It
yeah.
got way, I think I want to say it was 16, something like 14 to
Something
16. I don't
like that.
remember, something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then Fight Night by Peacock, which is interesting because Fight Night came out last fall, and that movie had a star-studded cast, and people didn't forget. So they didn't forget about Cheeto or not. Look, they didn't forget about Hart, but they didn't forget about Samuel L. Jackson, Don Cheeto. Am I making this up, Charles?
No, I no.
Kevin Hart did not get nominated. The rest of the cast got nominated. Y'all
Almost
wrong.
everybody else got in there
Look.
but Kevin.
Y'all are wrong for that, man. I Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart was the movie was through Kevin Hart's POV, and he didn't get nominated. That's a snub.
No, it's not a snub. It's not a snub. It's not
But
a
wait a
snub.
minute.
Look at the lead performance list, and you can and tell me who you would take out and put Kevin Hart in.
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying.
saying.
I'm just saying that if Taraji B. Henson can get nominated, like everybody got nominated for support, right? Samuel L. Jackson, Don Cheadle, Taraji B. Henson, they were all great, right? But how does the guy who the story runs through not get nominated? Now, to your point, I don't know who you take out, but apparently the voters were saying, and Charles is one of the voters, by the way. Apparently, the voters who nominated felt that his performance was not up to, well, maybe they thought it was up to snuff, but they thought there were 5 or 10 other people that were better than Kevin Hart. So that's pretty much what it meant. Then you had people like Coleman Domingo, who played multiple roles and got nominated for both The Madness, which came out, I think, last November, and Four Seasons, the remake of the Alan Alda 1980, 79, somewhere in there, 81, kind of like little satire that they did. So Coleman Domingo's on the road. Coleman Domingo right now, if he read the phone book and it was on a television show, he probably get nominated for that. People like Coleman Domingo. He is a hell of an actor, right? Uzu Aduba, The Residents, which she was fantastic in The Supremes. That was all you
Fantastic.
can eat. She's fantastic in The Residents.
Yeah.
Multiple nominee. Um, Natasha Rothwell, who came from Insecure and has gone on as a writer. She's on The White Lotus, where she got nominated for that today or this week. She also was nominated for How to Die Alone. Charles, I don't know if you saw that, but it was very funny, right? And then
Yeah.
let's give it up for Aldous Hodge. Cross, which was a DC filmed limited series, which I thought was great. A new fresh take on the what was Detective Cross's first name?
Alex
Alex
Cross.
Cross. Yeah, Tyler Perry played Alex Cross in a standalone film, which he wasn't bad. Of course, Morgan Freeman, I
Morgan
think a
Freeman.
couple of
Hmm.
times playing an older version of Alex Cross, but Aldous Hodge, man, he nailed it. And I thought also, Charles, that the story that they laid out was so complex, that had different kind of twists to it that kind of occurred even mid-season where we were thinking it was going one way and then it was twisting, it was going someplace else. I thought it was very well executed by showrunner Ben Watkins. And it was nominated today for a best limited series TV movie nomination. So Cross did quite well today. But Charles, I got trying to figure out how much time we got left because I've got all kind of timers going on. Oh, we got about 3 minutes left, man. Let me just hit you with one of these questions, man, that a point to ponder. Um, we've lost, shows in the past like Blackish, Queen Sugar, This Is Us, which has opened up space for some of these new shows. What does it say in your estimation, as somebody who's on the inside who works on some of the stuff, as well as a voter in our academy, about how the evolution, we call it the golden age of television right now, how television is evolving, and then the lines are being blurred between folks who are we used to think of that were movie stars who are now working in the TV space. So how do you feel that all of that is it benefiting TV at the detriment of film, which I think the quality of film is going down and the quality of TV is going up? I do. I'm sorry.
You think the quality of film is going down? Okay,
Sir, sir,
I'll
you,
let you
you watch the same movies I watch that are literally laden with a lot of special effects. We see some good stories. There's only one Sinners every 5 to 10 years, right? So don't use Sinners as your barometer, but use everything else across the board that you're watching. It's not just me. I mean, the numbers are saying it for themselves. But go ahead, Charles.
well, I think that there's room for everything. And because there's so much space in the streaming world, television world, everything that we can get these stories where people will take time out of movie schedules and rock a series. Like you got Kerry Washington, who I mean, she's done a lot of movies, but she's done television well. You got Delroy Lindo now. I mean, I think it's really good for TV, but I think it's they're trying to fill the void because there, like I said, there is just so much programming out there that we can have these great stories where you can have a Cross and a Forever and Paradise and things that I mean you never would have imagined before, and where there'll be black leads in before, but now you're getting the opportunity to see these things, and I think it's fantastic. I agree with you. Television has really upped its game, but I wouldn't discount movies either. It's just I mean you don't get fantastic movies uh, all year long, so it's just I don't know how to explain it, but the movie quality I don't think has gone down. I think it's just that it's become more diverse as well in the stories that they tell and the people who are making them. And so if we get more people like Ryan Coogler making Sinners up in the ante, making Tyler Perry come out with Straw, which I think is up in his game. So I think movies are starting to climb up as well. It's just that there's so much out there to do that is I think we're going to benefit everywhere. This may be we don't this isn't the golden age of cinema, but it is definitely the golden age of television.
Okay, well, touche. I take that. All right, so talking about film, let's stay on film, and we're talking. Let's move over to Mission Impossible, right? So, of course, both you and I saw the final installment. I think it was uh, uh, the eighth film in the Mission Impossible franchise, The Final Reckoning. And this is a really interesting conversation we're about to have because we're discussing the nuanced breakdown of the film's box office and budget dynamics, right? So the film had a $400 million budget, right? Which personally is just way too high, right? Because, and the reason why I say it's way too high is because, Charles, there's this incredible formula that a movie's got to make two and a half times this amount of money. So, in order, if you got a $400 million budget, this movie needs to make close to $1 billion for it to at least start to get into an area of profitability, right? You remember all the chatter around, the furor that people had around Sinners the opening weekend when it opened at 48 million and they had another 15 million worldwide and it was at 63 million and they was like, well, that's cute and all, but it needs to make 300 million in order to make its money back. And it done sailed way past 300 million. So take that, trades. But in the case of Tom Cruise, here's a film with a $400 million budget that just went over 500 million, right? Now, I'm reading here, Charles, that it says that the 400 million production cost means it had to earn roughly 800 million. So maybe I'm off by 200 million, right? But 800 million to break even is at five. So it's not a flop, Charles, but it's not a hit. It's sort of in this Netherland where Tom Cruise, as I playfully talked about when we reviewed it, Tom Cruise is doing all this stuff for you, right? And this is not my original idea. I got this from a Dave Chappelle skit. Like Tom Cruise is killing himself for you. Tom Cruise is hanging off planes. He's submerging himself beneath the sea. I mean, Tom Cruise. Look. He made episode 7 of this series where he did a stunt where he had a parachute and he was driving his motorcycle off a cliff like skydiving. I mean, Tom Cruise, who I've actually met and did a red carpet years ago for one of these Mission Impossible films. It might have been Rogue Nation or Ghost Protocols, one of them, where they did the premiere here in DC at the National Air and Space. And the first thing I said to Tom Cruise, I said hi, and then I said, you a lunatic, right? I mean, he's like, "What?" I was like, "Bruh, what are these stunts that you're doing?" Like, like, and he started laughing. He was like, I'm just an adrenaline junkie," and I'm like, "I know, but it's like." Man, I don't, Charles. All of this stuff that Cruz is doing, he got a lot of credit several years ago when Top Gun Maverick came out. That was a film that really brought people back to theaters after the pandemic. And Tom has always been about bigger, bolder. I hate to say this, man. Tom Cruise at 62 years old might be the short sprint champ because I don't know anybody else his age that can run that fast. Like I watch these movies and go, Tom is like getting it in. And like, does he have like he has two things I think that are in every contract, the last several films we watched. Tom's got to run 5 miles combined throughout an entire film. I don't know how much he does, but he's just like, and I'm not talking about like leisurely running. Tom is flying, bruh. And Tom has got to have a crazy stunt. I got to be on the side of a plane. I got to be underwater. I got to be flying off a mountain. I got to be doing something nuts. But Charles, what does this whole situation with Mission Impossible, is it really about the film or is it more about the budget dynamics in a film like this, in a case like this?
I mean, it's when you're doing all these stunts, you got to record them multiple times. And in this last one, there were, I would say, three stunts that he had to do. It had to tape like 8 to 10 times. And so that's a big budget number. I mean, when you're skydiving and you got to have somebody follow you skydiving, and I mean, it's
He's
incredibly
doing it
expensive.
multiple times.
He's doing it multiple times. That whole parachute thing that he did, he filmed that 8 times. From, from and so yeah, it's expensive. And maybe too much so. I mean, it's really ridiculous the amount of work that he does to sell a movie, to make a movie, which is probably why he's getting this honorary Oscar this upcoming year, because he's put in enough work to deserve having one, even which is surprising that he's never won an Oscar. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so I don't it's crazy that you got to make $800 million to profit a $400 million movie, but maybe that's why you don't make $400 million movies.
I was gonna say the 800 million part is crazy to you. No, you know what's really funny? I remember back, I would say, was it 2018, 2019 when we were talking about Marvel, and as they were wrapping up phase 3 of the MCU, and you know they were like, yeah, we doing Infinity War and Endgame, and they're gonna shoot them together, and it's like. I think what was the cost of those films? Was it five? I think it was 500 million for both these films, right? And it was like, yeah, they need to make $1 billion. They made two, right? Because again, the first one I think made $1 billion. The second one made more than that.
But
So
even if you think about it, that's only 250 million per film. They did two films for 500 million. Tom did one film for almost that much,
400 million.
for 400 million. So I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
does make
it's nuts, man. But again, the only Marvel, I would say Marvel is really in my lifetime, really, Charles, the only studio that I can remember that would invest 200 to 250 million dollars, and they would get like $1 billion back. And I think, well, I'm not gonna say I think, I know it spoiled them because after that, after Endgame happened and we had to get into phase 4 and 5, Marvel's box office started taking a hit because what we found out in retrospect is that it wasn't just the great marketing of Marvel and the storytelling of Marvel, but it was the Robert Downey Jr., the Chris Evans, the what's his name, who played the Incredible Hulk,
Ruffalo, Mark
Mark
Ruffalo,
Ruffalo. It was Hemsworth. It was Scarlett Johansson. It was all the
Tom
time.
Hiddleston, all these
Yeah, it
guys,
was all,
Jeremy
but
Renner.
but but think about it. It was all the time we invested from say 2012 to 2019 with these multiple like all these people sprinkled throughout all these different films 2 to 3 times a year for like 7 to 8 years. So there was such a familiarity with those characters, which is why I think I don't even know what the numbers for Endgame was, but Endgame was amazing because it was like the audience was saying goodbye because all these characters went away. And I hate to say this, Marvel hasn't been the same since Endgame. I mean, am I wrong, Charles?
I No, you're right. I mean, they had plans, and we've talked about this before. They've had plans of how the next phase was going to go that were derailed because of the death of Chadwick Boseman.
That's
So then
one.
they were so then they were
And
left
what's
with
two?
introducing all these new characters to people who, I mean, people. If you were a comic book fan, you might have known who they were, but you weren't invested with these characters on the screen, and and then the characters that people were invested with, they put them on streaming services instead of making movies out of them, and that might have been the problem. Instead
So
of it might have it should have probably should have been reversed, and I think they started figuring it out as it went through that put the new characters on the streaming service and keep your main characters on the big screen until people can get used to who these new people are. And well, we're seeing the fruits of these things as we're getting along, as we get this new phase coming in with Fantastic Four and the culmination. Yeah, we'll see how they're doing.
so again, I agree. I bring up 5 points, right? You hit on a couple of them, right? The death of Chadwick Boseman it reverberates in ways that really is still killing them today, right? So that
Yeah.
one, and no pun intended when I say killing them today, but losing Chadwick Boseman in the MCU was huge, right? The pandemic was huge.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
huge. Huge, not necessarily as it stopped the momentum, but huge that it pushed everything back and knocked things out of order because they had the streaming platform, which is number 3, that they flooded the streaming platform. And when the streaming platform initially was created, it would help augment the stories and serve as filler in between, leading you to the next movie. But when the pandemic happened and the movie schedule got thrown back, and you threw all these new stories out, and they didn't really match up with anything, the MCU started getting confused, and it didn't make a lot of sense, right?
Right,
Which
right.
leads to number four, when they cast or made a decision initially that we were going to go with Jonathan Majors to be the new villain, which would lead into a series of films that would happen in 2025, 2026. And then you remove him and then switch course. So, look, Charles, it as much success as Marvel had from 2008 to 2019, when they had that 12 years of a golden run, I'm not being a pessimist, Charles, but I don't know if you ever get that run back, because the groundwork which was laid in order to get you to 2019, you got gutted by losing all the characters that people loved, right? Then, in addition to losing Iron Man and Captain America and all these guys, you also lost the Black Panther. You introduced Kang, who had potential. You lose him too. You muddle up your schedule because you're trying to adapt to the pandemic. The movies just don't come back as well. The old formula that worked so well from 2008 to 2019, Charles hit the nail on the head. People aren't invested because you haven't given them enough. There are all these movies, and again, people. I'm gonna make sure we get this on the record, Charles, that the Eternals and, and Shang-Chi, like these what I call these one-offs, for whatever reason, you can't get Blade on the screen, which I don't even understand it, because it seemed like Wesley Snipes made it work. Well, he made it work well twice. The third one, you can have that one. But but I'm just saying it is. I think we may be into an area of fatigue, and we know that the latest Thunderbolts film was okay. It really didn't hit the way Marvel thought it would hit. I think that the Fantastic Four, this iteration probably will be better than the two iterations that came before it. But Charles, I don't know if it hits. I think it might follow suit with the same way that the Thunderbolts did. It might hit for a weekend, but I don't know. What are you thinking?
There was another thing that you touched on, and I think we need to look at even more carefully. When we had the first phase, we had stars like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, uh, Tom Hiddlesworth. I mean, these were big stars who came, and they may not have been the biggest stars in Hollywood, but these were credible actors who had lots of charisma, who were playing these roles. We had Samuel Jackson playing Nick Fury, and again another great character. And so when you get Brie Larson, I mean, she's cool and all, but she doesn't have the personality that Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. or Mark Ruffalo have as in their roles. And then you could just keep giving us more people, Oscar Isaac and all these other people. They're great actors, but they're not charismatic actors that people are going to be like, I love this person. And so, which is why we got Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom, because they realize they need star presence. I mean, again, we're talking about Chadwick Boseman. He had that presence. Jonathan Majors, he has that presence. But and you replace him with what? And so people are like, I don't know if I'm feeling this. And I mean, it kind of suffers all the way around. So yeah, we'll see.
And it is a perfect case study for me of watching, like I had a friend of mine call me the other day about our film festival. He was asking me questions, Charles, and he was like, have you reached the age of maturity with your business, right? Because once you're in the age of maturity, you have to market your business differently from when you're building a business, right? And Marvel, I think, reached the age of maturity with their franchises. And I think there was this sense that from folks that are on the leadership team at Marvel that we Marvel, the brand is so strong right now, we can throw anything out there and the public will buy it. And for a hot minute, for about a year and a half between, I would say 19 to 21, especially when the pandemic was going on, when people had to stay at home, Marvel had a golden opportunity when they had people's attention during the pandemic, right? But the issue was is that instead of using the model Charles, where they would parcel things out 3, 4 times a year, they had this new channel where they had to have all this content, and they oversaturated, and they had all these shows like Charles. Come on, man, She-Hulk. What was the other one? They did Hawkeye. They did What If. Loki, I thought was really good. Loki is probably the best of the streaming platforms, along with Scarlet Witch's show that they did the early one. I forget.
WandaVision.
WandaVision. Thank you. But like I said, man,
But honestly, WandaVision should have been a movie. They should have made a movie out of WandaVision because what's her name? Elizabeth Olsen is a star and she has charisma and people were invested in that character and you relegate it to a streaming service. Not everybody has Disney Plus, first of all, and second of all, uh, they want to see that on the big screen. It's a big screen story and they put it on the small screen and it kind of got people felt it was relegated to nothingness. And the Scarlet Witch is a big deal in the Marvel universe, and they just kind of treated it badly. So it's just there were a lot of missteps,
well,
and like you said, Marvel just had this feeling they could do anything and just cash it in, and it caught up with them. It really
well,
did.
like 2 or 3 times a year, we have these really extended conversations about Marvel. I'm just fascinated by it because there has been nothing like it during our lifetime, right? I mean, we've had James Bond and there have been other series, that have gone on for extended periods of time, but nobody's ever attempted to do what Marvel is doing right now, right? Where you pretty much take all the universes like the comics, right? And DC is doing it as well, where you build out a universe of like multiple characters. And for a while, I thought it worked well. I mean, I'm not going to say every film between that '08 to 19 period was great, but they were all tied together. They all worked. They all had a central mission. When the streaming services were first introduced, I thought, as I said earlier, that they did a really good job of filling in the gaps of stuff that was in the movie, connecting one movie to the next movie. And I think the worst thing, honestly, Charles, because it's like a lot of missteps. I don't know if one thing really kind of elevates over the other. But the fact that the pandemic came and all these movies came out of order, and it was just throwing stuff at you that didn't connect. I still
Yeah.
think about Moon Knight as a disastrous series, as well as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was another one. Or no, I'm sorry, not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Secret Invasion. That was the
Oh yeah.
one.
Yeah. That
Woo!
was pretty bad.
Not good at all, man. So let's get
Well,
out of this.
when we get
Oh, go
off
ahead.
the air, we'll have to talk about the rumors I've heard about Oscar Isaac and Moon Knight and what they have planned for the MCU.
All right, that'll work. Just got some award stuff, which is pretty interesting. All right, so let's now talk about our film this week, Ilio, right? And of course, Ilio tells the story of a young boy who's lost his parents and feels alone and isolated, living with his aunt. Longing to belong, he wishes to be abducted by aliens, and to his surprise, his wish comes true. But throughout this extraordinary journey, he discovers that his true place is home. All right, Charles. So, you go first, man, on this one. I want to hear your viewpoint before I come in with mine.
Um, okay, let me say this. When in the opening sequence, one of the opening scenes of the movie, they play the Talking Heads once in a lifetime. I was like really buying into this movie. I was like, the music is great, the animation is great, the cinematography, everything about this movie is really good. And then I realized that there were some holes in the story that just didn't work for me. And I left the theater. I'll say the movie is, I mean, as far as children will enjoy it, but I left the theater thinking I'm missing something. And there's always, I think the story was lacking in. It didn't really do much character development of Ilio, and to the whole point is we never understand why he's obsessed with outer space. It's never explained in the film. It's just all of a sudden he's obsessed, and just and of course his aunt is works for uh I think she works for NASA, or is it one of those, maybe the Space Force or whatever it is, and she's was supposed to be an astronaut, and you think that would kind of help him bond with her, but it really doesn't, and that isn't even explained. And so I really like the movie. I mean, it's emotional. It's well directed. I mean, it's Pixar, so I mean, when does Pixar go wrong? They're more reliable than Marvel in what they do. And so I mean, it works for children, but as an adult, and I'm looking at this and I'm trying to process why things are happening, it didn't really average out for me. So, yeah, it was a good story. I love the work that Zoe Saldana does in the movie, and yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, there's it works if you turn your brain off. But if as I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, I'm trying to think about why, If you ask why, then you're gonna be like, I don't get it. So that's it for
Wow.
me.
I'm so glad I let you go first, man. And even as I was half listening to you, I was multitasking because I was doing something else, but
That's
I'm half
terrible.
listening to you.
That's terrible. You
And
half listening
I
to me?
cannot disagree with you more over
Oh,
this film,
wow.
man. I thought that along with stories like How to Train Your Dragon and what was another one I wrote down? The Karate Kid Legends. There's been this influx of films that we've seen recently, which speaks to my earlier statement about the quality of films because maybe I'm in the minority and I Charles knows where I'm going with this. I'm a film nerd. I watch thousands of movies, right? So I'm just not the guy I'm not really the guy you should have a conversation with movies when we see these reviews because I'm looking past what I'm watching and comparing it and linking it with stuff not that we've watched in the past, but stuff that they're releasing now. So my original point, let me go back to it. There's been this theme that's been running with a lot of these films where we have young kids who are probably teenagers, young kids who are feeling alone and isolated, right? So the fact that Charles, at least I understood for this one, here's a kid who felt like an outsider. He didn't really fit in with his peer groups and his friends. He was interested, he lost his parents. He wanted, he felt like he had nobody left to support him. And his idea was that, he had always been fixated on space and aliens, right? So we see that early on in the story that, he's hanging out at the beach. He's drawing in the sand. Hey, aliens, I'm here. Come and get me. So he's got his ham radio. He's listening from signals from far away. So again, it might not make sense to you or I, but I'm saying think about it in the context of you being a young person who's feeling like you're alone and that you can't connect with anybody. So I'm not saying it is right, but I just had a perspective about it that I was able to go with it, right? His aunt, who is now caring for him, is trying to connect with him. He's still mad at the loss of his parents, so he's really not, he's pushing her away instead of embracing her. She, in turn, is frustrated because she can't really reach him. She sends him away to a camp and then blah, 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 right? So, having said all of that, this is a story for young kids that it's an adventure, right? So, he gets abducted by aliens. He has to kind of reimagine or recreate who he is, his identity, to belong. He wants to stay because he feels that he's finally found a place that's accepting. I thought everything about this film from a fantasy standpoint works really, really well, right? And I will tell, I'm not going to say, because I know Charles has a childlike imagination about a lot of stuff. So I'm not knocking you and giving you the famous Joe Barber line that I once gave him that, this movie wasn't made for you. This movie is made for all of us. It's universal in its appeal. I thought the voice work and everything about it worked really well. And I also think, which Charles is really going to fall out his chair when I say this, that this is an early contender for animated feature of the year. Like when they have the nominations later on, Elio will be a film that will be in the mix for that. Whether it gets nominated or not, I don't know. But there are lots of sweet elements in this story. And I loved a lot of the second and third act stuff when he befriends like another alien kid his age who is going through a similar thing with the loss of his mom. I thought there were a lot of it was the loss of his mom.
His mom was out fighting war. She was still
Okay,
alive.
well, his mom wasn't around, so he was feeling like he was abandoned. So you know what I'm talking about, man. Thank you, Charles. No, she wasn't gone. Thank you, Charles. But I'm saying all that to say that I thought I was amazed how Pixar constantly has these adults that work in their animation department who are writing, who can make films like Wall-E and Up, and some of these films that really kind of tug at your heartstrings. This movie worked for me. I'm not going to say it's the best animated film of the year, but it really worked for me in a way that I felt the movie. And I was like, okay, it reminds me that I'm seeing all of this stuff. And the fact that this kid has to evolve in front of our eyes. He goes from this scared, little, unsure kid by the end of the movie who's a kid that really has sacrificed and shown leadership and has grown up, not grown up to a full adult, but has stepped into being a responsible young adult in this film, which I thought in a way worked really well for me. It really did, man. So having said that, Charles, I'm gonna wrap that up. But what did you think? You already told me you didn't think that much of the film, but from a grading standpoint, where are you with Elio?
Well, I'm gonna say this. Maybe it was the fact that there was a guy with a phone on during the film that was getting ready to get kicked out of the theater, and it distracting me from seeing the film in the way that I should have. I don't know. That might have been the issue. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. Uh, I agree with you. The second and third acts are very touching and but it's that first act where you first meet Elio and you just don't get why he thinks the way he does. So I don't disagree with you. The movie is very good. It's very entertaining. The animation is fantastic. The voice work is fabulous. I just recognize a few plot holes that didn't make it the best film for me. So I gave it a B minus. I don't disagree that it'll be in consideration for best animated feature of the year because what Disney film isn't. So it'll be there. I mean, the work that they've done is fantastic. It's just that the screenplay works, the story really doesn't.
All right, so before I get back into that, Charles just did a dig at me, and I just want to make sure that we clarify. So first of all, we were watching F1 together when I was taking notes in the theater. I was not recording the movie, which I had to let this angry usher know that I was writing notes about the film so that I could remember certain things to discuss them on the show, right? So
Now,
Charles,
I'm glad you took that personally because it really did happen in both films. It happened in Ilio the next day, and I told my wife, "This is what happened to Tim Gordon yesterday," and so it did happen in both
so
films.
so so
I'm
let me
just
just say
saying.
this for the record, because I know there's ushers out here listening to this show. First of all, you're not kicking me out the movies, right? That's number one, right? This whole sir, turn your phone off. Ma'am, I'm taking friggin' notes. That was exactly what I said. I'm taking notes. I'm not recording the movie, right? And see, somebody told me, Travis Hobson. He's like, you should have told him you was a film critic. I said that would have sounded even worse. I would have been like, I'm a film critic. No, don't do that. But everybody, all my film colleagues were mad with me. I'm like, dude, I hate to say it this way, but I'm gonna say it here on this podcast. Charles, you talk to me every day. right? Am
every
I
day.
imagining, am I stretching when I say this? I got a lot of stuff going on, right? I mean, a lot of stuff going on. And I'm not saying that as a brag or like, hey, I'm better than you. Black Reel Awards, Light Reel Film Festival, film critic work, my own personal life, try like I'm managing a bunch of stuff. So if I want to take some notes at the movies to make sure that something stays fresh, can a brother take some notes? Right? So I was told, well, maybe you should turn your phone light down. But I didn't appreciate that woman scaring me like, sir, if you don't turn your phone off, we gonna have to get you. Really? Like somebody gonna leave, but it ain't gonna be me. I'm not leaving.
Wow.
Charles.
Wow. I hear you, but
I'm not, you're not putting me
but
out the movie. Like you can put somebody else out, but Tim Gordon's not. I'm just saying, nah. But yes, but that bothered me the other day because I came out and Nell looked at me. Did you hear Nell? You're an idiot. How are you gonna be in there? I'm like, man, y'all can miss me, man.
no,
Y'all
no.
can miss me. There's certain
Basically,
stuff. Look,
basically everybody in the community was like, Tim, what are you doing,
everybody was
bro?
mad.
What are you
Y'all can just
doing?
be mad, man. I got a lot of stuff going on, man. I can't remember all this stuff, man. I'm one dude with one brain that's trying to do a bunch of different things simultaneously, right? So,
No,
but needless to say,
what was really great was the kick him out, kick him out,
oh
kick
yeah,
him out.
well, and I started to turn around and be like, F all of y'all. But anyway, I gave this movie a B plus, man, for this extended rant. I need to cut all that out, but I gave this movie a B plus. Like I said, it really resonated with me, and can't wait for us next week to talk about F1 because we both sat through that last week.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that'll work.
B
All right.
minus for me, B plus for you. I got it.
All right, so we got about 4 minutes left, man. Juneteenth is we're having a Juneteenth weekend, man, and I just wanted to give out some recommendations, Charles, as we reflect on the ongoing cultural impact that's going on beyond the holiday. Of course, we should use this as a catalyst for year-round Black storytelling and cultural awareness, which I know we do, right? And we should continue the inspiration of themes of freedom, resilience, and joy. So, Charles, I got a couple of films I want to recommend. I know which one on this list I'm not reading because I'm not recommending that, but Miss
Yeah,
Juneteenth from 2020, really good
yeah.
film with
It's a great
Nicole
film.
Bahari. Summer of Soul, Questlove's his debut doc from 2021. Just Mercy with Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan. That was another really good one. I would also say The Color Purple. You could pick I would pick the 85 version, but if you want to watch the 2023, wow, Charles is a hater, man. Uh, on the television side, Blackish, the Juneteenth episode, which is season 4,
Four.
episode 1, is the Juneteenth episode. High on the Hog, I thoroughly recommend that. It's on Netflix. Netflix never takes anything off. Just go to Netflix and type in High on the Hog. It'll be there. Also, check out The Watchmen from HBO, the 2019 series with Regina King, specifically the opening, which is about the destruction of Tulsa, 1921, Black Wall Street. And finally, I've never been able to get through this, and it was even tough when we were putting up clips for it, Charles, on the Nine That Define. But When They See Us on Netflix, another powerful piece about the absolute mistreatment of the Central Park Five. So you should check that out. And always remember, man, that Juneteenth spirit is woven through the stories we tell all year long, reminding us where we've been, how far we've come, and the work that still is ahead for all of us, Charles. So, Charles, any closing thoughts, man, in the last 2.5 minutes before we get out of here?
Well, I would say if you haven't seen A Soldier Story, Glory, um, the Lovecraft Country, if you get an opportunity to watch, if you want to celebrate some Juneteenth things, I would put those things on the list as well. So yeah.
No, I
And
agree with you. I agree with you. No, no, I was just thinking, man. I'd watched Jamie Foxx just got the Icon Award along with Kirk Franklin, Snoop Dogg, and Mariah Carey at the BET Awards, and they did an interview with Jamie. at his house prior to the awards. And it was so funny because Jamie just had jokes and he went through this whole thing about when you talked about a soldier story, he's talking about the soldier story, and he did the monologue where CJ Memphis, the guy, the white captain comes in and goes, no, Major, he goes, well, how'd you catch that ball? And he said, I got some bird in my family. And he said, I hope it's American Eagle. Nah, it's crow.
Bro,
And when Jamie was doing it, it was killing me this morning because I was like, not only did he have the lines down pat, but he was doing the voices, and I was like, wow, that dude is multi-talented, man, just multi-talented. So
and you could,
oh,
and then you see
oh.
Adolf Caesar in the corner looking at him like,
You know what, man? A Soldier Story is such a great movie, man. Like, and
yeah,
I need to probably go back and revisit it because Adolf Caesar should have won an Oscar for that
he
movie.
should
He
have.
was great in The Soldier Story. So, yeah, man. But thank you for that, Charles. That's a great recommendation, man. So, as I tell you guys every week, man, please see something good at the movies. And I know Charles hates this, man, because this is some new stuff we just started doing last week. You ready? Charles hates this, but we're gonna do it anyway. Uh, you ready, Charles? Oh man, I hate Charles so much. So always remember to keep it black, keep it current, but also keep it real. You guys take care, man, and we'll see you next week, man. Enjoy your Juneteenth. Peace.